recording.
I'll
John makes these available after the fact, so.
Right.
Really awesome. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Ready to get started, guys?
Yeah.
Yep.
Want to kick things off, Dan?
All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. My name is Dan Laird. I'm with Campus Technology Services, and I'm the project manager for our Inclusive Access program at SUNY Oswego. And today I've brought a couple people together to talk to you about the program. We have Ross Reeder and Kurt Schwerman from RedShelf, and also have Paul DeVita from the College Bookstore. So Ross is going to talk about the program and RedShelf's involvement with it, and kind of some of the numbers of what we have going on. And that'll be it. We'll have time for questions. Actually, anytime. I don't think Ross minds, but anytime you have a question, just let us know, and we can address it. So, okay. Whenever you're ready, Ross.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for that introduction, Dan. It's great to meet everyone. Thank you all for joining. Really, what Dan mentioned is kind of the premise of this webinar is to discuss what the Inclusive Access Program is, kind of where RedShelf and the bookstore's role plays into the whole program, and then obviously kind of, answer any additional questions, concerns from there. But just to kind of kick things off, a little bit about RedShelf. We're really just huge advocates of digital course materials, right? And that's really what we focus on. We are an ed tech company and based in Chicago, like I mentioned earlier. And really our role is we focus on helping both colleges and publishers transition effectively to more affordable, engaging, and efficient digital course materials. Additionally, we've been on the Inc. 5000 for the last 3 consecutive years, and we now work with roughly half of all institutions nationwide with providing digital course materials, whether it's through an inclusive access type program or if it's through the bookstore's point of sale register system. As you can see here, we work with a very diverse range of schools, anywhere from community colleges to large public universities, both non-for-profits and for-profits. We work with hundreds of schools that have independent bookstores, and we're also the primary digital provider for all Follett managed campus stores. A little background there. We work with a large and diverse range of publishers, including all of the Big 10 publishers, along with any of the mid-sized and more mom and pop boutique publishers. Additionally, we do work with OER providers as well. We have over 1 million digital titles at this point in our catalog from all these different content creators. So essentially any title that you as a faculty member or a student might need or require, most likely, if we don't have it now, we can get it very quickly in the future. So that's never an issue with RedShelf. But yes, what are we all here for? We're here to learn more about the Inclusive Access Program, and that's been growing consistently over the last few years at SUNY Oswego. And so what is the Inclusive Access Program? So just from a high level point of view, RedShelf's role is we partner with SUNY Oswego's bookstore to integrate with the school's Blackboard LMS systems to help run the program, right? And so it's really a partnership between the SUNY Oswego bookstore, RedShelf, and the faculty members and the various publishers that are involved. So, the reason for inclusive access, right, is the higher education industry has been facing some really complex challenges for quite some time now, right? We're trying to improve affordability for students while also maintaining quality of their course materials. With inclusive access, every student automatically receives their course materials in a digital format through the LMS system, which is Blackboard. And they get those course materials by the first day of class. And the best part about it is the students are getting it at the most affordable rate, right? And so the pricing on these materials is always extremely competitive and even lower price than some of the digital titles that are sold through the bookstore. That's due to being in the inclusive access program, right? And so essentially we're getting like a bulk cost from the publishers, which lowers the cost significantly from even a standard price. So we're seeing on average around 30 to 70% cost savings by moving your course materials digitally into the Inclusive Access program, right? So it's just a ton of different benefits right there. So, as a result, some of the benefits, right, are, unmatched convenience of digital course materials. The students and faculty are getting the most affordable prices compared to print and other forms of digital format delivery. There's a single point of access, right? So students are logging into Blackboard, they're clicking on this very basic RedShelf link, and that's automatically bringing them to their course materials. Really, inclusive access, it's a win-win model for everyone involved, right? Students get the most affordable price. The bookstore gets, they're involved because they get a piece of the pie, right? So everything is kind of rolled through the bookstore, so they're happy there. And then the publishers are happy because they're getting a very high sell-through. On average, about 95% of the students are opting into the program. And so that means that, the publishers love it because they know that students aren't going to an outside provider, maybe like an Amazon or a Chegg, and they actually know that the students are getting the correct course materials because they're working closely with faculty members there. Additionally, just for everyone to be aware, students always have the opportunity to opt out of the Inclusive Access program, right? So let's just say they had a friend or a family member that was involved in that same course, maybe the prior term, and they had the physical book. They can always opt out and not be charged for those course materials. So I just want to make you aware, not everyone has to be involved. If you have it, you can always opt out. But because of the affordability, if you don't have the course materials and it is in fact required by your faculty member, by your professor, then there's no reason, honestly, to opt out just because you're getting it at the most affordable rate. I guess I can stop here for a second. Does anyone have any quick questions? Looks like there may be one here. Oh, Maureen. Yes, it is very clear and easy for students to opt out. When they go, and what I'm thinking is after this, we didn't want to have a live demo just because we wanted to just go over the program in general, but it is a very simple opt-out. Students would go into the RedShelf account and there'd be a gray text bar that says, I want to opt out of my inclusive course materials. Click that text bar and boom, they're not charged. So it's very straightforward.
Well, what about students who don't know anything about the RedShelf account?
So students are so on the first day of class, students are provided very direct and clear communication as to exactly the steps that they need to either, just redeem, get their actual course materials. So they're provided instructions. We make sure that everyone's aware, and that account is actually created for them free of charge automatically when their course is actually launched, which is what we do in the back end.
Let me also add to this, Ross. Maureen, when we do the billing for this program, once the charges are placed on their accounts, they automatically will receive an email that says, hey, you're in the Inclusive Access program. It'll list the courses that are in the program that they are enrolled in, and it gives them instructions on how the course works and how, if they would like to opt out, it gives them instructions. So we do send correspondence to each student that's in the program ahead of time.
Thank you both. I think my concern is that I give students instructions all the time and have to repeat myself multiple times over several weeks. So I guess my question really is, to whom do I send them when they tell me they have no idea what I'm talking about? To whom do they go?
That is a great question, Maureen. And RedShelf, we have a whole dedicated customer experience team that actually handles these types of inquiries or any student questions, concerns, issues. Dan and SUNY Oswego, they actually put together an entire page that goes over, I believe, Dan, we can provide that link after, but we have a whole CE page, right? And it's 24/7. We have a dedicated person at RedShelf that handles these inquiries, right? And it's typically we respond within 24 hours, but as the SUNY Oswego team could probably mention, it's usually a lot quicker than that. It's usually within an hour or less.
Great.
So yeah,
Thank you.
Dedicated team here.
I put the link to the support page in the chat. Also, Debbie asked a question. Is it a refund actually as they are charged in their tuition? So when they opt out, the charge is processed on RedShelf's end. They send us a file and our programmers will process it. It usually takes, we usually say about 5 business days, but normally it's quicker than that. We just give it time just in case there's a hiccup in the system. But they are refunded if they opt out. They're also refunded if they drop the course that they're in. So that's an automatic thing as well. If they were to drop the course, then it's automatically taken off their bill. So.
And they're refunded also if they took the course previously and had to take it again?
Right. Yeah. If they have taken it before and this is a retake, then they've already paid. So they don't need to pay again.
My question, actually, I have 2 questions. So we use some of the books that we use in different courses. You know, it's the same book, but we use in different courses. So do these books become inaccessible once students have paid for it, after the semester is over?
That's a great question. So it really depends on how we set it up, right? So we could set it up your course for a specific duration. It's usually whatever the publisher provides. So whether it's a 180-day duration that covers that entire term, if you would prefer setting up your course to let the students get a lifetime duration, we could definitely manage that. And how it would work is if it was a lifetime duration title, it would always be on their RedShelf account for lifetime until they got rid of their RedShelf account. So even if a student actually, gets through that course, passes it, graduates from SUNY Oswego, their RedShelf account doesn't ever disappear. So if they do have a lifetime duration ebook, it'll always be on their account until lifetime, until they decide.
So do they have to pay more for a lifetime account rather than just a semester?
Yeah, so duration definitely does kind of vary with costs, right? Obviously, the longer duration, the more expensive. But at the end of the day, being that it is digital and you're getting that inclusive access pricing, we could usually work with the faculty member and the publishers to come up with a win-win for everyone, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
So just to add to that, we have different agreements with different publishers. So, for instance, I believe with Pearson, all titles that go through them are available to students until they leave the institution. So as long as they have an Oswego account and can get into Blackboard, then they have access to the materials. So It does vary by publisher, but as Ross said, if that's something that you wanted to work into your textbook, if you wanted, certain terms, that's something that we can work with the publishers to get done. So.
Okay. And who do we talk to if we want it for like 3 years? Let's say we want a particular book to be available to our students for 3 years.
I believe you would have to work that out with the publisher. Am I right, Ross?
Yeah, no, you would work with both the bookstore and RedShelf and the publisher, but it would really just be one point of contact. So Paul DeVita, who's on this webinar, and we could get to this later. I know we're going to have a little Q&A, but we would work with Paul and we would get the correct duration that you would want for your course.
And in a situation like that, I could get the pricing for a duration of, let's say, 120 days or 180 days or lifetime, and then you can decide what fits into what your needs might be.
Okay, thank you.
Fantastic. And lastly, while we're on this page, I did want to mention one of the cool little features that RedShelf offers is insights into student usage and data, right? So if it's an ebook only course adoption, right? So it's not a course or product like a Pearson MyLab or McGraw-Hill Connect, but strictly an ebook. Students actually utilize the ebook on our own proprietary e-reader. And with that, faculty members get access to data usage, right? So they could actually see how many minutes a student spent within their ebook, how many minutes they spend on a specific page. And this is obviously useful for you as faculty members to see if students are having any troubles or issues with the text. Maybe they're stuck on chapter 3 and you notice they spend a lot more time on that chapter than the other chapters. Maybe that would be a discussion point that you could bring up in the next class. Say, hey, saw that you guys were all stuck on this page. Is there any questions here, right? And so it's just kind of cool little information to know to use going forward, just in case any students have any issues with text or anything like that. So you can see a nice feature there. So with inclusive access, we're able to offer both ebook only adoptions as well as publisher courseware, which is as I just mentioned, all the ebooks would actually be accessed via the RedShelf e-reader. And then if it is a publisher courseware like a Pearson MyLab, McGraw-Hill Connect, Cengage MindTap, what RedShelf does is the reason for inclusive access is we're actually giving the codes, and then the students go to their RedShelf account to acquire the code to redeem on the publisher website. So instead of students, going to the bookstore, getting a scratch off access card, it's actually preloaded onto their inclusive access RedShelf account, but they don't have to worry about that. So yes, your course, whatever course materials you require, we can make it work with inclusive access. That's not an issue.
Courses that have courseware in their curriculum is where we're finding their most savings for the students compared to what they'd have to pay over the counter for it.
Definitely. Thank you for bringing that up, Paul. Yeah, I mean, if you're acquiring a courseware product, essentially you're already acquiring digital. So there's really no reason not to put into inclusive access because students are going to be getting the exact same product, same workflow. They're just going to get it at a more affordable price, right? So instead of spending $100, $120 on a courseware product, they're going to be getting it for around $70 in inclusive access. Same workflow, right? They'd still be going to the publisher website. So it's strictly just more efficient, affordable distribution model, if that makes sense. So in terms of our digital course materials, as mentioned, all of our ebooks are served up on a proprietary e-reader that students can access on any device, whether it's mobile, tablet, or desktop. And they're also able to read both online and offline. So we do offer offline modes, which is really nice. Our e-reader also has a range of built-in study features to help students study more efficiently. And faculty even have the opportunity to embed discussion questions and quizzes right into the ebook content itself. This is a great way for instructors to gauge how well students are comprehending various concepts so that they can quickly identify any at-risk students and even adjust their classroom lectures accordingly based on what we're seeing from their students. Last but not least, our e-reader is known for being one of the best in markets in terms of accessibility for students with disabilities. So as you may know, a large percentage of students with disabilities never actually disclose those disabilities to their schools in order to get the proper accommodations that they need to fully learn. The fact that our e-reader already meets such high accessibility standards ensures that these course materials are accessible for all students, even if you as a faculty member don't realize they have any accessibility needs. So we have a dedicated accessibility team that's worked very closely with external providers to make sure that our e-reader gives anyone the same workflow or same really experience as another student.
Hey, Ross.
Yes.
We have a question from Debbie. Is the reader available for all texts?
Yeah, so as long as, that's your question, yeah. So as long as the publishers give RedShelf access to that title, then yes, we can make it available on our platform and turn it into an ebook for our e-reader. Debbie, did that answer your question? Okay, so you utilize an older edition. So yeah, like I mentioned, if we can get the publisher to give us that data, then absolutely we can make even older editions available. Great question. So as far as the process goes, we really try to make it as easy as possible. So back there. So really, if you're interested in getting into inclusive access, so the first step is, you can either search your title directly on redshelf.com to see if it is currently available digitally, or you can reach out to your bookstore, Paul at the bookstore, and have him check on it for you. At that point, once you give us provide Paul with your interest, we would work closely together with the publishers to get the best pricing available as possible. And then from there, from there, we would work closely with the school and the faculty member to set up the RedShelf link in your Blackboard account. And then we would, like I mentioned, we put together a whole communication plan for both the faculty side of things and for the student side, make sure that there's no student or faculty communication issues there. That way everyone knows exactly what the role is and how they're going to be accessing these course materials. And then lastly, students, once everything's set up correctly, first day of class, students are going to go, they're going to get that communication, and then they're going to go to their Blackboard account and get immediate access to their course materials. Any questions on the process, workflow process?
Just to add one point to this, Ross, the setup for the RedShelf and Blackboard, currently all new Blackboard courses that are set up in the LMS have a RedShelf link. So you don't even need to set it up. All you need to do is go to the link, and by default, it's hidden from students. You just have to make the link shown to students. So everybody already has that in there. So if you do sign up for inclusive access, you're already taken care of. You just need to make sure that your students can see the link. So, Maureen?
Yes, is that in the navigation center at Blackboard?
It's in the left nav, that's got the content and the links over in the left-hand side of Blackboard.
So they click, I make it visible, and then they click on it, and then they're into the book?
You got it.
Okay, thank you.
Debbie, do you have a question? Okay.
Awesome. And then Kurt, if you want to go over some of the data, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. So we've seen a ton of growth in inclusive access with Oswego over the last couple of years. And you can see that in this graphic here. We went from 89 total courses in fall of 2019 to over 250 this past fall, which is just tremendous. And you can kind of see the same sort of trend for the summer. And then the spring, we're up over 250 again in spring of 2021. So you can just see how that growth continues year over year. And it's saving students money all along the way, which you can see here. We've had over 7,100 students in inclusive access. The students are saving an average of close to $50. When you take the total sum of student savings, we're up over $1 million now. So not only is this a good method for making sure that students have access to their material day one of class, it's also helping students save a very good chunk of change, which is extremely important, as we all know.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kurt. And one other thing to that is, outside of these two benefits that Kurt mentioned, as a faculty member, just knowing that your students already have access to their course materials is one less thing that you have to worry about. Just knowing that they already have it. So, that they're ready to learn day one. So that's really kind of what the entire inclusive access program is. If you are interested, next steps, we recommend reaching out to Paul DeVita at the bookstore. He essentially handles the inclusive access program for SUNY Oswego. Along with Paul, you would have a dedicated team, a RedShelf team, which would include myself, Kurt, and your own content manager, along with that 24/7 customer experience team that we mentioned before. Dan and Paul are phenomenal resources internally at SUNY Oswego. So if you ever have any questions, you can always reach out to either of them. And then if there's anything, they would loop RedShelf in as well. But yeah, we really do appreciate everyone joining here. Any last questions that we could help answer for you right now, off the top of your head, that you can think of?
Go ahead. One question that I have is about, in terms of the cost. And many of my students, they actually rent books. They buy books from eBay and all those things. So are these books comparable in terms of cost? What's going on?
Sure, yeah. And you could think of ebooks as almost like a digital rental, right? Because you could buy whatever duration you want. So it makes it very easy for students. It should be, if you're looking at comparing like a used physical copy to an ebook, it should be very comparable, if not cheaper, as an ebook, just because, while publishers have been decreasing the costs every single term just because of the, the amount of students are utilizing ebooks, and so they're lowering costs of ebooks, and they're not lowering the cost of physicals. So yeah, very definitely comparable. And we keep everything very transparent, right? And so students are always notified of exactly the upfront cost of their inclusive access course. So if for some reason they are able to get the same course materials for a more affordable price, they can always opt out. Very rarely do we find that situation happening, but that's why we do have the opt-out capability for that specific situation.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and it does vary from title to title, right? Like obviously you can't guarantee that every single ebook's gonna be cheaper than a used physical book, but no, we try our best.
Mm-hmm.
So as a professor, I'm looking at my Blackboard course right now. I have to go through the process of getting the acquire code and uploading the book or getting access to the book each semester, correct?
No. We feed the course, the CRN number to RedShelf for anybody that is signed up for the inclusive access. So once they set it up on their back end, then your course should just automatically be ready to go. Like you shouldn't need to do anything unless if you were doing something where you need courseware through your publishers, like say you signed up for a MyLab title or a MindTap or, you know, whatever that they offer, then you would need to work with the publisher in order to have their portion of it installed. So there are titles, it depends on what title you get and what publisher you're working with.
Right. Because I'm looking at my course right now, and it when I click on the RedShelf tab, it's telling me to go through get the acquire code button and go on to the publisher website, blah, blah, blah. Oh, you know what? Yeah, that's not a Pearson book for that course. So that's odd.
Yeah, Debbie, maybe this is something that we could take offline after this and take a look to see.
That would be great.
Perfect.
Yeah. Have you guys put in the codes for spring 2021 yet?
Have I? Or
no, Kurt or
RedShelf.
Yeah, what was that, Dan?
Have you guys put in the codes for spring 2021 courses?
Yes, spring courses are loaded with the exception of just a couple that we're waiting on some information for. Yep.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, they should be, but if they're not, just let us know.
Yeah, because this one isn't set up. It is a Pearson book that I've used in RedShelf before, but it doesn't appear to be set up.
Okay. No, Debbie, we'll definitely take a look right after this.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Absolutely.
I have a question about usability.
Sure.
When I looked at I adopted a book from Taylor and Francis, and they allowed me to look at the digital copy first, and I did not find it all that intuitive. Now I am 50, so I'm a little bit, I'm a little bit slower to move through the electronic text, but so I just wondered, is there a kind of guide to using it that students will have that will be built in? Because I'm not seeing that myself. Don't know where to find it.
Yeah, no, great question. Now, Maureen, are you utilizing Taylor? Whose e-reader? Are you on RedShelf's e-reader?
I think I went through Taylor and Francis, and I think that they loaded it to RedShelf, and so I opened it there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if you're utilizing RedShelf's e-reader, we definitely have, and I'm sharing my screen now, I could send you a link, but we have an entire RedShelf Solve page that has all of the different, I'm going to get it for you really quick here.
Thank you.
I'll get off that screen, but it provides pretty much an overview of exactly how to use the e-reader. And I'm just curious if you're utilizing the e-reader on RedShelf or just through Taylor and Francis, but here is and I just provided a link and we'll send it out after, but here's a link to the main page on Solve. And when you get an opportunity, whether you're a faculty member, a student, or a bookstore member, we have tabs for each section there. And I will send you a link So here's a link that actually provides step-by-step for every single interactive function on RedShelf's e-reader.
Great. Thank you.
So yes, we have.
I did not access that. I must have been working through Taylor and Francis, and it was not nearly as accessible.
Okay, yeah, and like I mentioned, we could do offline as well. I'm more than happy to go over through this, but yes, I mean, our RedShelf's e-reader is very interactive, like we discussed earlier. So definitely could be a different reader that you were on. Okay. But yeah, if you want to take a look and let me know, we can definitely follow up after this.
I have another question, but I didn't know if Debbie had a question too. No, you mentioned that we can sort of embed questions and flashcards and things like that. So I guess I have to be honest. Part of why I resisted going digital is because I do not feel like it's in my students' best interest for me to hold their hands through every piece of the text. Right. Part of the work of intellectual development is that they navigate this to some extent on their own. So what kind of expectation does the digital text or RedShelf create in students that faculty are going to do that work for them? Like, is it, I'm a little bit wary that I'm going to have students coming at me telling me, well, what questions do you have? Like, where are the questions? So.
Yeah, absolutely. And so really it's up to the faculty member. So the ebooks that RedShelf provides is, the exact same format as if it were physical, right? Same pagination, same everything. So literally there shouldn't be any difference in your curriculum or teaching compared, using a physical book or an ebook, because it's really the same thing, just in a digital format.
So,
I'll go on.
Sorry, like if I embed questions and comments and like I've kind of started doing that in the Taylor and Francis digital copy. Mm-hmm. Are those visible to my students?
Yes, if you're utilizing the RedShelf e-reader, then yes, the students would have visibility to the notes that you make.
There's no way to make that private?
Oh, you can make it private for sure. Oh yeah, you can make your own notes, annotations, connotations on your own. And if you want, there's a feature called collaboration where you could actually share your notes with your students. Okay. But yeah, they're not seeing your notes unless you actually utilize that collaboration.
Okay. Okay.
And what that is you're actually given a unique passcode to provide your students, and then they enter your passcode into their RedShelf e-reader, and then your notes would start sharing with them, and they could actually share their notes with you as well. So it really works well for both faculty and students too.
That sounds cool, and yet I'm intimidated. I have a lot to learn.
Let's Maureen, let's set up a demo.
Thank you.
Go through everything, and hopefully that could settle some of your nerves with that.
Great.
Yeah. What else? What do we got? Any additional questions here? And obviously, if you can't think of any right now, you could always follow up with us. We're more than happy to, answer after this. Well, it doesn't really look like there's any additional questions. We really hope that this was beneficial for everyone here. We're really excited about the program. We're here for the students, right? And affordability, and, while making, their experience as best as possible for you as well. So, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. But other than that, we're here to be a resource for you in any way we can. So let us know, and I guess we can kind of go from there. I don't know, Dan, if you had any last.
Besides the websites that we've shared, SUNY Oswego also has an inclusive access website. It's oswego.edu/etext. So that the support link that I sent you earlier in the chat, that's a sub page of the main page. So actually, let me share my screen real quick, and then I can show you. All right, so this is it. And it talks a little bit about affordable classroom resource options, so which would include inclusive access. It also goes into OER a little bit, if that's anything you'd like to explore. RedShelf, for this presentation, gave me an information flyer that I have linked in the front page here. So if you'd like to check that out, I put a link to it in the chat as well for Debbie. So if you want to take a look at that. It talks about the process. And it also has a page for students to give them information on what it will do for them. Right now, I have winter 2021 session information in here, and I'll be putting spring information too. But One thing to note that we didn't cover with the opt-out period, there is a period of time that they need to opt out by, and we always coincide that with the last day that campus has drop dates. So the last day that you can drop a course for the semester is the same date that you have until you can opt out of the Inclusive Access program. It's usually 2 to 3 weeks from the start of the semester. So that is also talked about in the email that's sent to them. So there's a section for students, faculty, and there's also a portion of the site that shows what courses are currently in the program. So if anybody has any, the email, like I told you before, that gets sent out to students does let them know what courses they're in that are in the program, but this is out here for general reference. And then the support site that I talked about earlier, there's links to the RedShelf Solve page. There's also a link to the RedShelf support form. And then we also have a couple, these are knowledge base articles. So how to access your course content in RedShelf, how to opt out, and how to set up RedShelf and Blackboard. We made a link for this. All this video is showing you how to unhide the link that's already in there. So this video shows you how to unhide the link in the navigation bar that everybody has. So that's all I had to add. So, and as always, feel free to reach out to us or RedShelf if you have any questions. That's it for me.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all for joining us. It was a pleasure, and we look forward to hopefully working with you all in the Inclusive Access program in the near future.
All right, thank you. And can I set up a time to meet up with you?
I will stop the recording.